Welcome to Wisdom Inspired, a podcast designed to help high achievers to eliminate burnout and overwhelm. Now let's prepare to open our hearts, our minds, and our notebooks to receive today's wisdom. Spiritual keys of living clutter-free. That's been our topic. And so we covered, the last time we were together, we covered the first spiritual key, or the first key to living clutter-free. And we talked about practicing forgiveness. And the thing is, as we're talking about these spiritual keys, I want us to really consider the fact that, just like I mentioned before, that the clutter that you see around you is always an indication of what's going on inside. And so that's why we're covering the spiritual side, the internal side of clutter, the thoughts, the worries, the things that drain us, the emotional energy that all of these things can cause. It keeps us from staying focused. It keeps us from focusing on things that really, really matter. And it can clutter up that pipeline, right? So we talked about practicing forgiveness. Today, I want us to talk about analyzing fear. That's our second key, analyzing fear. When not analyzed properly, fear can really be paralyzing. We got to determine where that is coming from, what it is, what does that look like, right? And so when we do that, there are several things we need to consider. So hopefully I can, articulate this in a way that really helps us to declutter in this spiritual stuff, this spiritual junk that we have, by analyzing and taking a closer look at what these things are, okay? So the Bible mentions two types of fear, okay? One is beneficial. The other one is a detriment, and it's something that we need to overcome, okay? And the reason that I'm kind of hesitating, because there's some fears that I need to overcome, all right? But anyway, I digress. Let's keep moving forward. So the first type of fear is fear of the Lord. And this type of fear doesn't mean to be afraid, like in terror of the Lord. Okay, this is not like, we need to be afraid, like in terror. This is a reverential awe of who God is, a reverence for his power and his glory. But it is also having a proper respect for his wrath and his anger, okay? In other words, the fear of the Lord is a total acknowledgement of all of who God is, right, which comes from knowing him and knowing who he is, his character, right? So, and then the other fear, by definition, is a distressing emotion aroused by an impending danger or evil or pain, etc., whether it's a threat or whether it's, real or imagined, whether the threat is real or imagined. The feeling or condition of being afraid is something that can cause feelings of dread or apprehension. And so I just thought about this. One of the things that, I hate going to the dentist, right? Because when I go to the dentist, the moment he takes out those instruments and starts to dig around in my mouth, I anticipate pain, okay? It's like I'm just waiting for him to miss something with a sharp object and poke my gum or something like that. I anticipate pain. So my body, I start to be a little, squirmish and start moving a little bit, and it never fails. The doctor always asks me, does that hurt? I'm like, no, I'm just anticipating that this is going to hurt, right? So that's my anticipating a danger, a pain, and so, it distresses me, right? And so that is that type of fear, right, that relates to future events. Because, again, I'm anticipating that in the future, at some point in time, this is going to hurt, okay? So But it's always, again, it's always worth noting, I don't know if I said that already, but it's always worth noting that it always relates to future events, and it can be paralyzing. And it's very real, and its effect on you and your business and the success of your business can be devastating if you're not analyzing, if you're not checking it, if you're not, figuring out where it's coming from and its impact on you. Because it's an emotion that can cause you, even your breathing to speed up, your heart to race, and your muscles to tighten. And it's a very, very powerful emotion. And many of us have fear, like, fear of death, fear of speaking, fear of success, fear of height, fear of closed spaces, right? But fear is also our inbuilt survival instinct. It's there for our protection. It enables us to move out of the way of a speeding car, right? Because to face, if we're facing an immediate threat, right, we got to respond in a way that protects us, right? So that's fear. That's the two types of fear that the scriptures, talk about. And so anxiety, on the other hand, is a more persuasive and more connected with the mind in insecurity and future uncertainty relationships, meeting demands. And to overcome these fears, we need to be able to resolve and learn from them. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. It could take some time. Sometimes people never get over those fears and anxiety, right? I remember even having a panic attack while I was riding an elevator, because the elevator had these glass floors that I could see the bottom as we were going to I think it was the 11th floor. And the fact that I could see through the bottom of this elevator caused me to have a response, because I have a fear of heights. And so my resolution is not to get on those type of elevators, right? Like, I will walk 30,000 flights of stairs, I'm just saying, so that I don't have to look at the bottom of the floor and experience that. So anxiety is at a deeper level, and I believe that that's what in 2 Timothy 1:7, when it refers to the spirit of fear, that is mentioned, okay? It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind," right? And I know a lot of people, because I've heard people say this, well, you're not supposed to be afraid. God didn't give you the spirit of fear. Well, exactly. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be afraid of some things, right? But that means that I don't have to have the spirit of it, a spirit of fearfulness and timidity. That doesn't come from God. It doesn't originate from him. Not that we won't have fears, but it doesn't come from him. So we don't have that spirit of fear, okay? So that was one of the first keys I wanted to share with you about how to resolve it. Because after you analyze it, you got to resolve this thing, right? You got to know that you don't have to have the spirit of fear, and it doesn't come from God. The second thing is that you can be delivered from it. Psalms 34:4 says, "I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears." All of my fears, right? And then 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made complete in perfect love." So what are some questions that you need to ask yourself? We've talked about, the biblical aspect of it. What are some practical things, like some questions you need to ask yourself when you're being faced with, fear, like in your business, even in your personal life, right? Because from your personal life, it always extends to your business, right? So what are some questions that you need to ask yourself? So one of the things you need to ask yourself is what are some things that I'm afraid of and why, right? in addressing those fears, what are some of the issues? Why is it that I'm afraid of this? Why is it that I'm afraid to speak in front of people, and be brutally honest with yourself, okay? Because speaking is one of the top fears that people have, right? Other than death and height. Those are like the top 3 fears. And so is it that I'm afraid of success? Am I afraid of failure? Am I afraid of what other people think about me? And then what am I going to do to conquer those fears, right? And these are just some practical things that we can do in analyzing it, reading the scriptures, but then analyze it and be brutally honest with ourselves by asking ourselves these questions. And then make a list of the fears that you have, particularly regarding success and business, right? Because with the right mindset and approaching the real deal with as it relates to our fears and being brutally honest with ourselves, we can overcome them if we want to. So pray about these fears that you have regarding your business and your personal life, what have you, and determine what action you're going to take to conquer in your business. And do it, right? This is a part of the decluttering process. This is how you clear out that pipeline when it comes to addressing and analyzing fear. So I hope you enjoyed the episode of Wisdom Inspired that was brought to you by the AAC Co-working Community, a virtual community designed to support female entrepreneurs, business owners, and freelance professionals. For more, go to wisdominspired.net.